Chapter 11 Test Review. So the first one, problem number 1, all you have to do is FOIL. So we're going to take that 2x squared and we're going to multiply it by each of those. So 2x squared times 4x gives me 8x cubed. 2x squared times y gives me 2x squared y. Then I take the negative y times both of them. So I have negative y times 4x gives me a negative 4xy. Negative y times y gives me a negative y squared. And that is your answer. Here we have 7h plus k cubed. So that means that you have 3 of them. 7h plus k times 7h plus k times 7h plus k. So the first step I am going to do is I'm just going to multiply these two together, just like we did on the top. So I have 7h times 7h gives me 49h squared. 7h times k is, 7hk. Then I go to my k and I multiply that. So what is k times 7h? Yes, 7hk. And then my last, I have my k times my k, and that gives you, k squared. So that you don't forget, I'm going to just bring this one down just for now. But I'm going to combine like terms, because those are my like terms. And I get my 49h squared plus my 14hk plus k squared. And then I have to multiply that by 7h plus k. So you can take and multiply this to each one of them and keep going like that. Or you can do it backwards. It doesn't matter because it's all the same. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to multiply it by both of them. So 49h squared times 7 gives me 343 h cubed plus 49h squared times k. 49h squared k. Then we move to the next one. So we're going to move to this one now. So I have 14hk times 7 is my 98. H and h is h squared k. Then I have to go 14hk times k gives ya 14hk squared. Then I have to move to my last one, my k squared. So k squared times 7h is 7hk squared. K squared times k is k cubed. Now we have to combine like terms. So combining like terms, we have, there's no other h cubed, so that is the one answer. So I'm going to put it up here. 343h cubed plus, I have my h squared k, so these two are like terms. So 147h squared k. And then these two are like terms. So I get 21 h k squared and then my last k cubed. Alright, now we're going to go here and factor. Factor means that you have to pull out things in common, you have to make it look like this is extended. That would be the factored form. So we are going to go and pull out what's in common. So 4, 12, and 16. What number do they all have in common? Yes, 4. This has 8 x's, this has 4 x's, this has 6 x's. How many x's can we take out? 4. We have here 7 y's, 5 y's, and 3 y's. What's the most y's we can take out? Yes, we could take out 3 y's. It bothered me, sorry. It's a cube. So, z's we can't take any out because this has z, this is z squared, and that's just a z. So, what do we have left? Our 4 divided by 4, that's gone. X, 8, and we took out 4, so we have 4 left. Y's, we had 7, we took out 3, we have 4 left. And z's. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. X's, we have, we took out 4, so then that's what we had, so done. Y's, y to the 5th, and we took out 3, so we have y squared. And then z, where we didn't take any out, so we still have our z squared. Negative 16 divided by 4 is a negative 4. We've taken out 4, we have 6 of them, of x's, so we have x squared. We're taking out y cubed, that's what we had, so we're done with that. So that is our answer. Alright, number 4. Now, number 4 says to factor this. Hopefully you guys see that it's a cube, and so I want to know, is 8 and 343 perfect cubes, which they are. So we're going to use the formula a cubed plus b cubed is equal to a plus b, and then it's a squared, times them together, change the sign, ab, and then square the last, b squared. Now a is the thing, after you take the cube root, a is the number or numbers and variables that are here, b is what is here. So let's figure out what a and b are. So a is going to be the cube root of this whole thing, 8x cubed, which is 2h, and b is the cube root of 343, which is 7. So that tells me that I'm doing this. So I have, what do I have? Yes, 2h plus 7. What does it say to do? Square a. So I'm squaring my 2h. So 2 times 2 is 4h squared. It says to multiply them together, change the sign. So multiplying them together, changing the sign, gives me a negative 14h. Square the last gives me 7 squared is 49. And there's your answer. Alright, number 5. If you look at 5, you see that we have two terms. we have two terms, and our first term it is a 4, and then we have 16 here. Well, the thing that we have is we have perfect cubes and we have perfect squares. So this has to be our perfect square, if it is one. So we have, is 16 a perfect square? And it is. So our formula on this one is a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b and a minus b. So we have to take to get a, you have to take the square root of this. So a is going to equal the square root of a to the 4th, which is a squared. Then we have here, we're going to take the square root of 16, which is 4. So this tells me then that we have a squared plus 4 and a squared minus 4. However, hopefully you guys see that there's another a and a b right here, because this is still that formula. So we're going to do that again, where a now is going to be a, and b is going to be 2 on this one, because this is separated by a negative. So I'm going to bring this down. I have a squared plus 4, and this one is a plus 2 and a minus 2, giving us our answer. Looking here, we have 9h squared minus 3h minus 20. So it's not a perfect cube, it's not a perfect squared, so we have to do AC. So a is 9, c is 20, or negative 20. So AC is a negative 20. That tells me I need two numbers that multiply together to give me 20, that when I subtract them, I get my negative 3. And my numbers are negative 15 and 12. So I'm going to rewrite this with my negative 15 and 12. I have 9h squared minus 15h plus 12h minus 20. What's my next step? Finding out what's in common right there. What's in common? 3h. So I'm going to take out a 3h, and I'm left with 3h minus 5. And what's in common here? 4. So plus 4. Make sure you have that sign. So plus 4. And I'm pulling out 3h minus 5. Because 12h divided by 4 is 3h. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. So what's in common with this? That's this. 3h minus 5. And we have left 3h plus 4. So that's my answer. Alright, use the function where you have g of x is your 9x to the 4th plus 48x cubed plus 64x squared. State its domain. Well, what numbers can you put into x? You can put anything in. So, all real. Alright, how many zeros or how many roots would you have here? You would have how many roots? You'd have 4. You'd have 4 roots. So we're going to, and remember, roots, zeros are the same thing. So find all roots or find all zeros, identify any multiple zeros. So the first step we'd have to do is we'd have to go and we're going to factor that. So I have 9 actually I'm going to pull out, I was going to rewrite the problem, but I'm just going to, what can I take out? I can take out, how many x's? X squared. So I'm going to take out x squared, and what do I have left? I have 9 x squared plus, how many, what do we have there? Yep, 48x and then we're going to go plus 64. I'm going to move this up. Alright, so now here you can either do AC, that would be a little bit harder, but you can do AC, or you can try to figure out a different way to find your factors. Well, the one I look at, I always look to see if it's a perfect square. Is 9 a perfect square? And it is. Is 64 perfect? Yes. So I'm going to use the formula that is A plus B squared is equal to A squared plus 2, it says multiply together and double it, 2AB plus B squared. So we're going from here to there, so we're looking at the first number and you take the square root, then you look at the second number and take the square root. This middle number is by multiplying them together and doubling it, so we can check with that. So what was my first thing I have to do? Take the square root of 9x squared. So I have, I'm going to bring over my x squared. So the square root of 9x squared is, so square root of 9 is 3. Square root of x squared is x. B, what's the square root of 64? Yes, 8. And we're going to square that. Multiply them together and double it to check your middle term. 8 times 3 is 24, and then you double it, it gives you 48. So that's right. So how do I find my zeros now? What do I have to set this equal to? 0. Once I set this equal to 0, what can I do? I can set this to 0 and that to 0. So I have x squared is equal to 0, and 3x plus 8 squared is equal to 0. So we have here x squared equals 0, take the square root, so my first 0 will be 0. When I have here, take the square root of both sides, I have 3x plus 8 is equal to 0. And then I'm going to subtract 8. So I have 3x is equal to my negative 8. Divide by 3. X is equal to a negative 8/3. So my two zeros are 0 and negative 8/3, and both are doubles. So how would a graph look like of this? Because that just might be on the test. So how would it, what would it look like? We have a 4th degree, and if it's a 4th degree, that means that it's going to look like a parabola. So it's going to look like a parabola, somewhat like a parabola. And does it open up or open down? Yes, it opens up. So it opens up, and we know our zeros are at 0 and at negative 8/3. So negative 8/3 negative 8/3 is about negative 2.6. So here's 1, 2, 3, so about right there. And what happens at each one of these? They bounce. So that means, and it opens up, so that means it's going to start here, and it's going to bounce. It's going to come here, it's going to bounce, and that's what it's going to look like. Alright. Number 8. Find the zeros of the polynomials function with the equation right here. So my zeros are, how do I find my zeros? I just have to set each one of these to 0. So I'm going to go 12x cubed is equal to 0. X plus pi squared is equal to 0. And 3x minus square root of 2 squared is equal to 0. And solve each one out. This one, divide by 12. So I have x cubed is equal to 0, so x is equal to 0. This one, it bounces 3 times, doesn't it? So that's a root, but that's a triple. That's a triple root. This one right here, we take the square root of 2, or of 0, so we have x plus pi is equal to 0. Then I have to subtract pi. So x is equal to a negative pi. And then here, square root of both sides, I get 3x minus square root of 2 is equal to 0. I'm going to add square root of 2. And then I'm going to have 3x is equal to the square root of 2. Divide by 3. X is equal to the square root of 2/3. So I have 1, 2, 3. All of them are multiples. This is triple, double, double. Alright, back side. Yeah, I'm going to go with a new one. Alright. Alright. So can the data points in the table below be can modify a function and explain what we have? So basically what you have to do is, if it's going to be a polynomial, remember you just take your right number and you subtract your left. So you go 3 minus 5, which gives you a 2. 0 minus your 3 gives you a negative 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. 6 minus 2 is 4. So if you need to stop the tape, what I want you to do is to just go and subtract these and see if you ever get the same number all the way across, and then you can play it again. Alright, so you should have got negative 5, 5, 1, negative 6, 7. Then you had 10, negative 4, negative 7, 13. Negative 14, negative 3, 20, 11, and 23. So it never became the same number, so therefore it will not be, cannot be modeled as a polynomial at this time. Alright. Consider the polynomial. We have 7x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x plus 3. What is the degree of the polynomial? 3. Now it doesn't ask you this, but I'm asking this. How many roots does it have? 3. And remember, the degree is the highest exponent, so always look to see if it's in order. But it is 3. So how many roots is 3? How many zeros is 3? Alright, so now it says find p of negative 1.55. So literally they just want you to plug this into that equation. So you're literally going to go 7 times your negative 1.55 cubed plus 2 times negative 1.55 squared minus 4 times my negative 1.55 plus 3. If you plug that all into your calculator, you should get, and if you haven't done it yet, pause it, negative 12.06. Alright. Consider the function, this. How many zeros does it have if all multiple roots are counted separately? So how many roots does it have? How many zeros? 3. When it says counted separately, that just means because sometimes it could have been a double, remember? So they're just saying how many could it be? Alright, for any polynomial function, if negative 3 is equal to 0, so if p of negative 3 is equal to 0, then x plus 3 is a factor. So it's saying if negative 3, if you put, what is this saying? If you put negative 3 in for your x of the function, and you get 0. So that means that negative 3 is a 0. If negative 3 is a 0, what is a factor? It would be x plus 3. Another thing you can think of it is this says if you put it in for x, then it's going to be 0. So if I put in negative 3 for x, negative 3 plus 3, that gives me 0. So however you want to look at it, it is true. Alright, it says to find two polynomials whose zeros are 0, 1, 6, negative 2, and e. So the first thing we have is to go through and make one polynomial. So polynomial function, remember, is always going to be something like p of x equals something, or whatever, s of x equals something. So now if 0 is a factor, or if 0 is a 0, what's my factor? X. If 1/6 is a 0, what's my factor? Now if you wanted to put x minus 1/6, I would accept it. If you're an advanced student, I would like you to not have that, and I'm going to put it over here. If you're a more advanced student, I would love you to have 6x minus 1. If you're advanced, if you're not, and you just want that, that's fine. Then we have, if negative 2 is a 0, what's my factor? X plus 2. And my last one, if e is a 0, what's my factor? X minus e. Now it says, well, how can I make another polynomial? Well, first we'll call it something else. So I'm going to call it s of x. It doesn't matter what you call it, but I'm going to call it s of x. And then all we have to do is multiply this by something, or square one of them, or do something. It doesn't matter what. Let's just keep it simple and multiply through by 2. So I have 2x, and then x minus 1/6, and then x plus 2, and then x minus e. So there I have two polynomials. Alright. Number 14. Number 14, my computer's even getting tired. Number 14 says that Sally's getting money and she's putting it into a bank, and every year she's putting in money to the bank, and they want you to write a polynomial in terms of x, where x is going to represent 1 plus r, and that is really just her interest, pretty much is what they're telling you, because remember, your interest rate is 1.06 or whatever, so that's your interest rate. So if she puts in the bank, she puts $45 in the bank, then and she's only going to get, it says annually, so she puts $45 in the bank, and then the next year she comes back and she puts in another $30. Well, since the $45 was in the bank, it has interest. So then she's going to come back and she's going to go back the next year and she's going to put $70. While this one has 1 year of interest, this one now has 2 years of interest. Then she's going to come back and she's going to put in her $55, and then this one will have 1 year of interest. How many years of interest does this have? 2. And how many interest does this have? 3. So how much money does she have? She has all of this money in her account. So now it says to write a polynomial. So now if we're writing a polynomial, we want it to have p of x or something is equal to literally 45x cubed plus 30x squared plus 70x plus 55. And then it says now, well, now she knows the interest rate. The interest rate is 6.25. How do you write that into a percent or into a decimal? 0.0625. And you have to have the 1 in front of it because you're going to be multiplying it and you're getting the whole thing. So and that's what we're doing, is we're putting in this in for all your x's. So you're literally going to go 45 1.0625 cubed plus 30 1.0625 squared plus 70 1.0625 plus 55. Add that all up and you should get 217.22. Alright, getting down, almost done. Number 15, I'm actually going to try to get another piece of paper here. Number 15, it says a ball is thrown up upward with a height for each seconds. So it's recorded. So now it says to find a polynomial that describes this situation. Alright, the height of the ball after t times. So for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that these are my x's and that's my y's, so that we can just talk about x and y since that's what we're used to, and then we can put the t and h in the end if you're more advanced. If you're not, that's okay too. So the first step is, how do I find out what degree is this polynomial? Yes, I have to subtract it. So I'm going to go 118 minus 116 gives me a 2. 88 minus my 118 is negative 30. 26 minus 88 is negative 62. That would be a first degree. It's not a first degree, so let's look at the second degree. Second degree, we subtract them. Negative 30 minus 2 is negative 32. Negative 62 minus a negative 30, negative 32. So that means it's a second degree polynomial. Remember, for every degree, so it's second, we need one more, so it's going to be, we're going to look for 3 equations. But the first thing we have is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. But I'm actually going to put it the other way, just because it's going to be easier for our matrices. Ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to y. Alright, so now what do I have to do? We're going to be solving for a, b, and c, so that means I have 3 variables, so I need 3 equations. So how do I write my equations? Yes, I pull from here. So I'm going to put this 1 in for my x's, and then 116 for my y's. So I want you to stop the tape, and I want you to set up your 3 equations by putting them in. So the first equation you had was a, and then we had 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c is equal to 116. Then the second one is a times 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c is equal to 118. Sorry about that. Take a sec. I got up early. That's the time that we were gonna get up, but I got up early to do this for you guys, so I'm trying to shut my alarm off. Alright, so then I'm going to take my 3. So I have a 3 squared plus b 3 plus c is equal to 88. So let's clean this up again. So I have a plus b plus c is equal to 116. 2 squared is 4, so I have 4a plus 2b plus c is equal to 118. And then 3 squared is 9a plus 3b plus c is equal to 88. So, to do our matrices, remember, we just simply take your first number, so it's 1, 1, 1, 4, 2, 1, 9, 3, 1. And you have to do the inverse, and you multiply that by 116, 118, 88. So you throw that in your calculator, and what do you get? Negative 16, 50, 82. If you don't know matrices, remember what you have to do really quickly is you would hit your matrix button and you would go to edit, and then you would go and enter 3 by 3. When you do it, make sure that it looks exactly like what you have here. So it'll be 1, 1, 1, 4, 2, 1, and then you go second quit, go back to your matrix. So your second matrix, and this calculator is just matrix. Go back to edit, and then put this in B, which is 2. I'm going to edit that, and it would be 116, 118, and 88. So I'm going to second quit out of here. I'm going to make sure my matrix A was the same one that I had. 1, 1, yep. Alright, so I'm going to go matrix A inverse. So I'll go matrix A inverse times matrix B and I get my negative 60, 50, 82. So that gives me, remember that gives you your A, B, and C. That's what you're solving for. So that means I have y equals A, which is negative 16x squared, plus B, which is 50x, plus C, which is 82. Now, if you need linear combination on this, stay tuned after problem 17, and I'm going to do linear combination on it. And I found a new trick, so it's easier. So stay tuned for that after problem 17. Alright. So 16, it says, what is an equation for a polynomial that's graphed at the right? So what are my zeros of this polynomial? Negative 5, right here, negative 3, and this is negative 1, that's negative 2, so it's negative 1.5. So I have negative 1.5, which is, and then negative 3, and negative 5. So this says it's a 4th degree polynomial. Where is the one that bounced? Where's my double? Remember, a bounce is like a ball hitting the ground, so it's going to come to this, is going to be like, it'll pretend like that's the ground then. It'll bounce this way or bounce that way. So see how this went through? That didn't bounce. That went through. That didn't bounce. But right there is a bounce. So that's a double. So this is a double. So double means that it's going to be squared. So write my polynomial. So function. So what's the first thing you have to have? Yeah, p of x equals. Now if this is a 0, what's my factor? X minus 1.5 squared. If this is my 0, what's my factor? X plus 3. Oh, this should be, sorry, this should be a plus 2. It's opposite. And if negative 5 is a 0, then my factor is x plus 5. Sorry about that. Alright, 17. It says to look at the numbers and say how many zeros does this function have and where are they located. So remember, 0 and your y's will go from positive to negative. So your 1, 0 is here. So it says where are they located, between where are they located. So I'm going to just start writing them. So between negative 3 and negative 2. And then it goes from negative 1 to 2. So that means it's between 0 and 1. 0 and 1. And then it happens again between here and there, so between 1 and 2. So that means that we had 3 zeros, which is the same as up here. So then it says sketch a graph of the function. So remember, we have to have zeros, so I have to have a point between 1 and 2. Between 0 and 1, and then between negative 3 and negative 2. Now, the biggest thing is this is negative. Your thing is negative, and we haven't really done a lot of these, but if you think about it, when you have a positive, like a line, think of your line, because that's where you're coming from. If you have a positive line, it goes upward, right? So it starts here and then goes up. So if your snake is positive, it goes from here. If it's negative, it would start up here and then go down. So it's going to go through this one, come back up, curve, going to go through that one, and come back down. So that is what it looks like. Well, that's the end of it, unless you're staying tuned for your linear combination. So number 15, using linear combination, we have, and I would recommend you turning your sheet of paper so it's long ways so you can see it, unless you write small and then you might not have to, but a plus b plus c is equal to 116, and 4a plus 2b plus c is equal to 118, and then 9a plus 3b plus c is equal to 88. Alright, so what you have to do is you have to subtract these two, and then we're going to subtract these two and get two new ones. So we have 4a minus a is 3a, 2b minus b gives me b, c minus c is gone, and then 118 minus 116 is 2. Then you do this, 9a and 4a gives you 5a, 3b minus 2b is b, c minus c is gone, and then you have your 88 minus my 118 gives me a negative 30. Now I'm going to take and subtract these two. So I'm going to subtract these two. I have 5a minus 3a gives me 2a. b minus b is gone, and then I have negative 30 minus 2 gives me a negative 32. Then I would divide by 2, so a is equal to negative 16. Then I can bring this over here, and I have putting this a into it, so I have 5 times negative 16 plus b is equal to a negative 30. So 5 times the negative 16 gives me a negative 80 plus b is equal to a negative 30. I add 30, I add 80, b is 50. And now I come back and I go and put these two into one of these equations. It can be any one, so I'm going to actually take the top one. I'm going to take that a, so it's negative 16 plus b, so 50, plus c is equal to 116. So I have negative 16 plus 50 gives me 34, plus c is equal to 116. I'm going to go and subtract my 34. So we have c is 116 minus 34 is 82. So the final step would be y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I don't know why I did that. Plus c. So I'm going to put in my a, b, and c. So we have y equals negative 16x squared plus 50x plus 82. And now the only last thing is, if you are more advanced, it did want it the height in terms of time. So remember, this is the height and this would be the time. So negative 16t squared plus 50t plus 82. So this would be the more advanced answer. Well, that's it for the day. Might do the 11-8 at a different time, but at this point I'm gonna be done. Have a great weekend, guys. Oh yeah, make me proud and study.